Hello everyone. Today's session is on William Wordsworth's famous poem, The Solitary Reaper. Now, as we all know that William Wordsworth is a romantic poet. He is symbolic in his writings of the romantic movement, talking of liberty, equality and fraternity taken from the French Revolution. So, his age is from 1770 to 1850, and this particular poem which we are going to take up today is talking about or epitomizing the romantic movement in English literature. Now, when we say romantic movement, we first need to understand what is romanticism in English literature. Now, as students of literature, we all know that romantic period in English literature roughly extends from the second half of the 18th century to the second half of the 19th century. The main characteristics of romantic poetry can be analyzed thus. Poetry is the expression of personal feelings and emotions, and this is what we call subjectivity in poetry. Imagination is the main source of poetry, and romantic poets lay a lot of stress on imagination and fancy. Nature in romantic poetry is a living thing, a teacher, a man and a healing power, and at times nature is given the status of a religion, pantheism. The individual is more important in romanticism as compared to society, and if we name a few romantic poets, we have to count William Wordsworth, John Keats, Byron, Shelley and Coleridge. Having said that, let's move to the poem, The Solitary Reaper. Now, if you try to decode the title of the poem, The Solitary, the word solitary talks of isolation and loneliness, and reaper, we all know a person who is reaping the crops. Now, in the first stanza of the poem, if we read it, it says, "Behold her," that is, look at her, "single in the field yon solitary Highland lass." Now, Wordsworth is saying that look at her over there in the Highland part of northern Scotland. Alas, she is all alone in the fields, reaping and singing by herself. And what is the activity she is involved in? She is reaping, and perhaps she is singing and murmuring a song to herself. And then the writer or the poet tells us in a didactic tone, stop here or gently pass. Now, you as an onlooker looking at the girl who is reaping and singing all alone in the Highland area of Scotland, you as an onlooker have two choices in fact. Either you can stop and listen to her, or gently pass by so that you don't happen to disturb the serenity with which she is engrossed in the company of nature. Alone she cuts and binds the grain. Now, the poet is further describing the activity or the action of the solitary reaper. What is she further doing? She is cutting and binding the grain, and she is singing a melancholy strain and sings a melancholy strain, and the music which she is murmuring, it is perhaps melancholic in nature, that is, it is somewhat sad. And then again the poet becomes didactic and says, oh listen, he is asking the onlooker to listen to the melancholic strain which the Highland lass is singing, the solitary reaper is singing. For the vale profound is overflowing with the sound, and he says that just listen to the reverberating melancholic strain amidst the highland area, and the entire valley is echoing and it is profoundly overflowing with that beautiful melancholic strain or sound the girl is singing. So, this is the first stanza comprising of 7 lines. Now, this is it. Behold her single in the field. So, you can easily imagine. So, this is imagery used by Wordsworth. He is asking the readers to imagine that how a highland lass, the solitary reaper, is single, standing single or engrossed in her work in the field. And this is again a pictorial depiction that the valley is profoundly overflowing with the sound of that melancholic strain the highland lass is singing. Now, if you summarize the first stanza, the poet implores his listener or the onlooker to stop and look at the girl who is reaping and singing by herself in the field. The poet again asks the listener to stop here or gently pass by. As I said, that he gives the 2 options to the listener, either stop here and listen or gently pass by so as not to disturb the smooth flow of the song. As she cuts and binds the grain, she sings a melancholy strain. And look at the music, the onomatopoeic effect the poet has created, melancholic strain, and the whole valley is full of the song. The song sounds to the poet to be a sad one, and Wordsworth here in this stanza emphasizes the girl's isolation by using words such as single, solitary, by herself and alone. The girl is alone but surrounded by nature. So, that comes strongly that though the girl is alone without any human company, but then she is completely at peace and acceptance in the company of nature. The act of reaping alone in the field binds the girl to the earth, and thus she is very closely associated and attached to nature. Also, the girl sings and the melody fills the lonely valley. She becomes almost completely merged with nature. So, the valley overflowing with the profundity of her music, she completely engrossed in the activity she is doing, and that is what is the unity of man and nature, that in spite of being away from human society, human company, she is feeling so much at ease, so much at home in the company of nature. This is the second stanza. No nightingale did ever chant more welcome notes to weary bands of travellers in some shady haunt among Arabian sands. Now, this is a comparison. Poet is comparing the music or the melancholic strain of the first stanza mentioned in the first stanza to the soothing music produced by the bird nightingale. And when that soothing music produced by the nightingale reaches the ears of the travellers who are travelling among the Arabian sands bearing the heat and wrath of nature, that music provides them with a calming, soothing, balming effect. So, he is comparing the music of the solitary reaper with that of the nightingale, and is saying that the music of the solitary reaper is even better. It surpasses the music produced by the nightingale that is being cherished by the travellers who are looking for some shady haunt amid the Arabian sands. Now, this is the picture of a nightingale, which is a singing bird. We move on to the next stanza. A voice so thrilling never was heard in springtime, from the cuckoo bird breaking the silence of the sea among the farthest Hebrides. Now, again another comparison of the melancholic strain produced by the solitary reaper with that of a cuckoo bird. Now, what is Hebrides? Hebrides is an island group off the coast of Scotland. So, cuckoo bird singing in springtime, again a beautiful imagery. You can actually feel the soothing effect of a cuckoo bird singing in the beautiful ambience of a springtime, and it is breaking the silence of the sea in the island groups at Hebrides. These are the islands offshore Scotland depicted in the slide, and this is a cuckoo bird, again a singing bird known for its melody. Now, if you analyze these two segments of the second stanza, the poet compares the solitary reaper's song to sounds of two singing birds, saying that hers excel those of the nightingale and the cuckoo. The woman's sound is more welcome than any chant of the nightingale to tired travellers in the Arabian desert, and that the cuckoo bird in spring never sang with a voice so exciting. So, he is giving two perfect imagery of a nightingale singing to the tired travellers in the Arabian Sea, and on the other hand he is giving a depiction of pictorial depiction which even touches your sensory organs about a cuckoo bird singing in spring season, the beauty of nature at its best. This is the third stanza. Will no one tell me what she sings? He does not have a company. He is all alone listening to the solitary reaper, and then he asks a rhetorical question, will no one tell me what she sings? So, here there is a clarity that he is only able to listen to the melancholic strain which is being sung by the solitary reaper, and perhaps he is not able to make out the lyrics of the song. It is only the music or the humming of the song which he is enjoying. And this is a rhetorical question because we do not have another person to answer to the query of the listener. He moves on to say, perhaps the plaintive numbers flow for old unhappy far off things and battles long ago. Now, he is giving us certain propositions. What might she be singing? So, the first one is she must be singing an old unhappy song talking of battles which have taken place long ago. Or is it some more humble lay, familiar matter of today? And then he puts forth another question. Oh no, she might not be singing of some heroic action in a war or the loss which mankind witnesses in a war or a battle. She might be singing some familiar matter of day-to-day life, some natural sorrow, loss or pain that has been and may be again. And he gives another proposition in a form of a rhetorical question again. He says that she must be singing on a topic related to familiar matter of day to day, dealing with sorrow, loss or pain that has been and may be again. And we have to understand here that the theme of sorrow, loss or pain is something which is continuous in its cycle, that has been and it might happen again. And there is this vocabulary given at the bottom of the slide. Plaintive means sad or lamenting. Numbers are musical rhythms far off, that is related to past, very old. Humble is simple or commonplace, and lay is song. In this third stanza, the speaker seems to be utterly charmed by the woman's song, although he cannot understand the language of the song, and so he cannot say what the song is about. The speaker tries to imagine and give certain propositions what the song might be, and because he has already mentioned it in the first stanza itself that it is a melancholic strain, he now gives us further guesses that her song might be about some old unhappy things, some past sorrow, pain or loss. Or it may be about some battles fought by her beloved people long time ago. Or again, perhaps he says, it is a simpler song about some present sorrow, pain or loss, a matter of today. It can be a mundane routine, sadness or sorrow which all human beings have to bear. Fourth stanza, whatever the theme the maiden sang, and then he resigns that whatever might be the theme of the solitary reaper's song, as if her song could have no ending, and it seemed like a continued effect which her song was producing. I saw her singing at her work and over the sickle bending. She kept on singing while she continued to do her work, and the listener, the poet or Wordsworth is saying, I listened motionless and still. And as I mounted up the hill, the music in my heart I bore, long after it was heard no more. And he says that the melancholic strain kept reverberating, kept echoing in my mind long after I climbed the hill, I mounted up the hill, and I was now physically distanced from this solitary reaper. Till now, I was observing her singing from very close quarters, but now I moved away from her because he has already meant her gently pass by. I didn't disturb her, but while I moved away physically from her and climbed the mountain surrounding the Highland, I still could hear the beautiful melancholic strain echoing in my heart and mind, though I could not hear it anymore because now I am physically distanced from her. The poet ends the poem saying that as the speaker understands that whatever the reaper sings about, he listened motionless and still. This is the enchanting effect of the song. And as he travelled up the hill, he carried her song with him in his heart long after he could hear it no longer. The beauty of the song is stressed here. It had touched his heart and lingered in his mind, giving him joy as he travelled up the hill and carried her song with him long after he could no longer hear it. Now, if we try to analyze the poem consists of 4 8-line stanzas. The first sets the scene, where you can imagine the Highland lass solitary in the field and reaping and singing. The second offers the two birds comparison. The third wonders about the content and meaning of the song. And the fourth stanza describes the lasting effect of the song on the speaker. The poem is written in iambic tetrameter and the rhyme scheme is A, B, A, B, C, C, D, D. So, when you correlate it with the text, you will be able to further understand it. Now, as I have been repeating earlier, that the poem is full of imagery. And what is an imagery? The description given by the poet actually affects your 5 sensory organs. The poem presents a natural scene in which the reaper is situated in the center, working alone in the field. The 2 middle stanzas take us to the different geographical regions. When it is compared with nightingale, we are taken to Arabia, and when it is taken to compared to cuckoo bird, we are taken to Hebrides, where images of wandering nomads under the scorching sun contrasts with the sailors anxious to reach the land. For both groups, the singing birds signal survival and safety. This is another imagery effect. The auditory imagery also preoccupies the poem, represented by the reapers and birds singing. So, this is the auditory imagery used here. Very many figures of speech have been used by the writer. It is a metaphor when he compares the reaper's song to that of the nightingale and cuckoo. It is an apostrophe where he begins the poem in which an imaginary person or thing is addressed as if present and capable of understanding. When he says behold, so he is talking to some person, but there is no person physically present. if you try to analyze the themes which are depicted in this poem, you have to correlate it with the first slide when we have talked about the characteristics of romanticism, and imagination was one of them. So, this particular poem, The Solitary Reaper, is about the power of imagination to transform common everyday events into representations of larger reality. The second important theme, again as per the characteristics of romanticism, is the unity of man and nature. The poem dramatizes the reaper amongst natural surroundings as she is bending on the ground and reaping the grain. The whole valley is filled with her song, echoing her sound. She is associated with singing birds. So, this beautiful poem ends here, where we are able to empathize with Wordsworth as a romantic poem and enjoy the beauty of romanticism in this said poem, The Solitary Reaper. Hope you had an enjoyable session. Thank you.